Yeah, so this evening we're playing Vaesen, which is an investigative Nordic horror RPG where the players are confronted with the creatures of Scandinavian folklore and try to deal with them, be it peacefully or forcefully. It's a game using the Year Zero engine that's in most of Free League's games, such as Mutant Year Zero, Alien, or Tales from the Loop. And we're all really familiar with this one, aren't we?
I'm as familiar with this as I have with any game that we've played.
Excellent. And so the idea is that all of the characters in this game, they belong to an organization called the Society, which is has been set up to combat the Vaesen, which is the collective name for these creatures of folklore. And I just got a little bit of an intro, which is kind of for the players as well here. Are you ready?
Yep.
Then I shall begin. You'd all found yourselves drawn to the city of Uppsala in Sweden through strange dreams about an old woman and an organisation called the Society. You tracked down the old lady, Linnea Elferklint, in an effort to understand what was happening to you. Linnea did not know why you were dreaming about her, but understood the meaning of those dreams. The people of Scandinavia needed protection from Vaesen, and you have been chosen to re-establish the Society. Linnea, however, was rambling and sometimes incoherent. She described an organisation founded in the 16th century by Tyne Rasmussen and the noble Mats Rosenberger. The Order of Artemis for studies of Vaesen, for they'd been gifted with the sight and they were able to see the invisibles. The Order grew with more and more Thursday's children drawn to its ranks. Thursday's children being the name given to people that had been gifted with the sight, the ability to see the Vaesen. They learned that the Vaesen would sometimes harm, enslave, or kill humans. Several members, believing that the creatures were in league with the devil, Matt wanted the Order to focus on locating and banishing Vaesen, while Tyne insisted that the accumulation of knowledge should remain its primary objective. For 200 years, the Order of Artemis spread across Scandinavia, constructing several meeting halls, one of them in the city of Uppsala. And during all that time, they gathered texts and information about Vaesen and magic, and built these huge secret libraries of occult knowledge. In the 18th century, the Order of Artemis was renamed the Society. Many members around Scandinavia were killed in their encounters with the Vaesen during this period. Something seemed to have changed, and the Vaesen had become more provocative and violent. The Society's purpose shifted more to the banishing of those Vaesen that attacked humans. At the end of the 18th century, more than 100 Thursday's children were gathered in northern Finland to combat a family of giants that had been terrorizing the humans there. All but 3 of the Society members, Baroness Katja Kokkola, Professor Albert Riedenheim, and Countess Hilma af Thulensteiner, were killed during this effort. The survivors returned to Uppsala and attempted to recruit new members to the Society, but in the years that followed, all 3 of them disappeared. The new recruits either died or went mad, or chose to leave, like Linnea Elferklint, and the Society eventually dissolved. However, Linnea suggested that there may yet still be other groups of a similar orientation operating across Scandinavia, but she has no idea whereabouts they are or how to contact them. When asked to describe her expeditions and encounters with Vaesen in greater detail, she turned silent. And shortly afterwards, you were informed that she had been readmitted to the asylum. Linnea's reasons for helping you rebuild the Society are so far unknown. And so you find yourselves as new residents at Castle Hillenkreutz, the former headquarters of the Society in Uppsala, a huge neglected old castle on a hill by the Irish River. It's surrounded by a black iron fence and has a gate flanked by statues of griffins. The garden and the paved walkway leading to the entrance are overgrown with bushes, trees and shrubbery. There are plenty of mice, rats, foxes and birds. In the backyard, there's a small, dilapidated jetty on the shore of the Irish River and a boarded-up boathouse. The garden also has several smaller buildings, most likely used as stables, storage rooms, and servants' quarters, as well as a number of statues and a fountain. Up on a small hill, there are 7 rotting crosses of wood. The exterior of the castle is decorated with monstrous gargoyles. 3-story building with several towers and a vast underground cellar. Castle Hillenkreutz stood vacant for many years. Its old furniture is covered in cobwebs. Mice have nested in couches and chairs. Rats defend their homes while bats and crows come and go through holes in the ceiling. Parts of the building reek of mould, and the leaky roof lets rain in. Most of the castle is unexplored. Many of its doors are either locked or nailed shut. By reading old journals left behind by previous residents, you have learned that there are several libraries, a laboratory, an infirmary, a chapel, an observatory, and halls for magical studies. There should, somewhere, also be cells where Vaesen were held. All of this is hidden behind the many secret doors that you have identified but not yet opened. And so yes, you are the new residents here, but you're not the first. Others had received the same calling and arrived before you. A disparate group have been here for several months, and they welcomed you somewhat cautiously. At first, you took it to be a kind of jealous rivalry, but eventually you discovered that they had recently undertook an investigation at Nin to the south of Uppsala, and that one of their number had not returned from that adventure. And then there's also Algot Frisk, a man who claimed that his ancestors had served at Castle Hillenkreutz for hundreds of years. He had insisted on being hired as a steward of the castle. Steward Frisk works hard to keep you fed, help you dress, and clean up the castle, taking every opportunity to point out the need for more staff. Furthermore, it should be noted, the good steward on many occasions has sported a smile that suggests he knows more about the society and Vaesen than he lets on. So far, none of you have gotten him to reveal his secrets. And so, where do we find you? Where do we find you? In the castle. Yes, thank you for that, Lloyd. That was very useful. Castle's a very big place. What is it? Let's start with you, Roland, as you've stuck your head above the parapet. Where do we find Roland of a morning? Now, most of the castle is unexplored. A lot of it is very run down. The furniture is in bad state of repair. Somebody has uncovered at least one of the libraries that belongs to this place. But what would Roland be doing of a morning?
I would probably think like of a morning rather than like during like his working hours. But I don't know. I was thinking like down by the jetty, like just out there where it's quiet.
Yeah.
Sort of almost meditative kind of sort of scene, because it'll be out there quiet, maybe a bit misty in the morning.
Yeah, and there's the sound of running water that cool perhaps lulls him into a bit of a trance. Now, it is the middle of summer, or towards the end of summer, actually, so it's quite warm, even at this time of day. And so you sat there quietly contemplating. What is he contemplating?
I'm thinking, because he's kind of got this drive, like he's trying to track down this werewolf that he came across previously during one of his cases.
It's become a bit of an obsession for him, right?
Yeah, and the case has got a bit cold, like the trail's got a bit cold. But then the sort of, he knows like a little bit about what this sort of building represents, so there might be some clues here.
Yeah.
And then also wondering why the other people have wandered in and found this place, and why they're all being drawn here as well.
Yeah.
There's some kind of supernatural thing luring them in, as well as this whole society that's supposed to like keep an eye on the supernatural.
Sure. Okay. So what about Ingrid? What would Ingrid normally be doing of a morning? What kind of person is she? What? Just to throw you in at the deep end here, Red. I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, gee, thanks.
You're welcome.
So Ingrid, she's wanting to learn more about Vaesen generally. So she's going to be looking through. She's going to be looking through the library.
Yeah.
She's got her eye on the sort of like she knows that there are those crosses up on the hill.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's going to be a thing at some point, but right now she wants to learn more from whatever books she can find than
Yeah.
a few
So
bodies.
how do you think she kind of feels about the fact that some of the other residents here, they revealed that one of their number had died recently during one of their... In fact, he'd taken his own life because he saw something so terrifying. Would that affect Ingrid? I mean, because she's quite a creepy character, right?
I mean, a little bit. I mean, she's
A bit creepy. No, I guess that I'm generalizing, aren't I? Because she's an occultist, isn't she? She's an occultist.
yeah, she's
so
an occultist. She's
yeah,
seen and maybe done a few things that probably wouldn't register on most people's radars as being awesome.
okay.
But how would you feel about someone having died or having someone having killed themselves?
Yeah.
She is terrified of Vaesen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but she wants to know more, and that desire for knowledge is more powerful than her fear.
Cool. So you'd be sat in the library that had been uncovered, going through some of the tomes that were found there.
She could be both, Ange.
So Elsa Angland. Now Elsa is she was a servant, wasn't she?
I was a servant, but the family I worked for moved away, so I'm kind of like vacantly.
You're between jobs.
I'm between jobs, but had this reason, and that I was drawn towards this area with the strange dreams and things like that. I am interested in the Vaesen, but I kind of believe that they're all evil and they should be sorted. But I am not a like gung-ho character. I will like try and listen to reason.
Okay.
Even though I think that they are wrong and ultimately are there to harm humans.
Okay.
But I overwhelmingly like to protect people. I'm very loyal. I like to fuss a little bit about.
Okay.
But
Mrs.
I do
Doyle.
have.
I'm imagining you as Mrs. Doyle at the moment. And you can't remember the reference. Never mind.
You mean Mrs. Doyle that does this from
Go
Father
on,
Ted?
go on. Anyway.
Yeah, she's a bit of a tough cookie. You know, it's like, yeah, I'm a bit of a tough cookie because I'm a servant. So I'm quite regimented. Like I have a very important exercise regime that I do in the morning of like, you know, stand and stretch and
Okay.
reach.
She sounds formidable.
Formidable.
I know you are. I was talking about your character.
Rude.
Vlad.
Yes. Vlad is currently in the library.
Oh, so he's in the library too. Okay.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
However, he is far away from Ingrid. He is not very close to her.
Okay.
You would find Vlad looking through each of the books, going, no. Secretly, what you don't know is that he is looking for books that he wrote. And very disappointed that he does not find any in the library. And when Ingrid is not looking, he shall open up his satchel and find a tomb and kind of fit it between. It may not go in that place specifically, but it is very important that Vlad find one of his works, at least in this library, and he shall continue to look on. And once it is appropriate, he will call it, oh, look, that's my book. It is in this library. And that is what Vlad is.
Okay, I like it. Excellent. So Valdis, you're a kind of outdoorsy type, aren't you?
Yes.
So where would we find Valdis?
I
Of a
would
morning.
be out in the grounds with Copper, my dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be wandering the grounds.
So the dog chasing around some of these rats and mice that are out in the garden that we discussed earlier.
Yeah, anything. If there's rabbits, I think there's occasional foxes. Just be like testing, and
Sure.
letting it run free.
Okay. So while you're out the front there, then, Valdis, in the grounds, you kind of as you get towards the kind of front gates, you're aware of there's a gentleman who's kind of standing there. He's fairly well dressed. He's got himself his hat kind of protecting his head. It's already quite warm out here, as I said. And you kind of get the feeling that he's trying to get your attention.
So it's just outside the gate. So I will just.
I mean, he's
Okay.
not like gesturing you over. He's just kind of
Yeah.
standing there. You just kind of get the impression that he'd quite like you to go over and speak to him.
Yeah, I'll carry on as usual, no rush. But I will make my way over because obviously this castle, it's only new that we've come to it. Don't know how often, people actually come to it. So it's a bit
You haven't
weird.
seen a huge number of visitors. I mean, you've seen people kind of perhaps stand outside occasionally. The castle's been abandoned for a decade or two, and now that there are people that are living in there, so the village, the town, sorry, has kind of it's got a bit of interest, and so you've had the odd people kind of standing at the perhaps outside the fence looking in to see what they could see, to see if they could see what was going on. And maybe this guy's one of those kind of people. Maybe he is,
Yeah, well, that's why I'm taking my time. I'm not going to rush up. Obviously, I'll make sure Copper's with me and not, because I would assume that normally they do kind of meander off if somebody comes close that's in the castle. So
Yeah.
if he doesn't move away, obviously, then I'll just keep.
No, he
walking.
doesn't. And in fact, as soon as you kind of get within earshot, he just says, "Good morning."
Good morning.
And how are you today?
Well, it's a fine day, so doing well.
Yes. Is it just you in today?
No, it's just me outside right now, and Copper.
Are you approaching him or are you staying away from him?
I'll keep moving slightly forward.
Okay.
I will say, I will be carrying my gun. I will say, because
Yeah.
it doesn't go anywhere with me. Because just in case something bites the back at the
Yeah,
back.
and so I guess when he sees that, as you approach him, and he sees this kind of gun, he's you're armed. Are you hunting in the grounds?
It's for the foxes, just in case.
Oh, I see. Yes. Well, you can imagine there's quite a bit of interest from the locals upon hearing that Castle Hillenkreutz is once again inhabited. They're especially intrigued by a number of foreigners in residence. And you know that, particularly in the other group, there's quite a lot of people from outside Sweden that are residing within the castle too.
Ah, okay. Well, many people come here. It has rich heritage, no matter where they're from.
Yes, but everybody seems to have arrived within a few months of each other. It's certainly certainly intriguing, isn't it? Why are you here?
Intriguing, coincidental, whichever.
What brings you here? Oh, sorry, my name. My name is Stefan.
Stefan.
Yes.
Valdis.
So yes, Valdis. Pleased to meet you. What is it that brings you here?
The heritage, of course.
Oh, the history. You're a history lover. I can tell. I can tell by looking at you. He says, and yeah, there's a hint of sarcasm there, I guess.
Yeah.
And yes, I mean, it is quite a historical building, isn't it? But it has been abandoned for quite some time, and as I said, the locals they're very interested in what's happening here with these people arriving unexpectedly, unannounced. My interest, on the other hand, was piqued when I heard that one of those foreigners had recently passed away in, how shall I say, unusual circumstances. Would you care to make a statement for the paper? And he holds out a business card.
I do not know anything of this. You seem to know more than I do, and now that is a very questionable.
Oh. So, you know nothing of the incident? The man was a resident of the castle until a few months ago. You know nothing of it? That seems very strange.
I know nothing of what happened.
He's holding out a business card through the fence.
Yeah, I will take the card, but just like just flick it through my fingers.
Okay.
Not even looking at it, just flicking it.
Okay. No statement?
No statement is needed. I do not know what you are after.
Oh. But perhaps there's somebody in there that may know.
Maybe. But, I'm enjoying my walk around the grounds on this fine day.
Oh. Another time, perhaps.
Perhaps.
And he lifts his head, tips his hat to you, and wanders off.
And I'll carry on round. And I'll probably head up back to the house at this point.
Yeah, sure. And so back in the house, we've had what's Elsa doing? Elsa is
I'm going to have wandered down to the kitchen, and I'm going to find Mr. Frisk and see if I can assist him with preparing breakfast and making sure there's an adequate place for everybody to meet and partake in breakfast.
Oh.
Muted.
You find Frisk. Yeah, he's he's out down by the kitchen. He's been, I don't know, preparing cups of tea for everyone or whatever. So he's a little surprised when you kind of appear. Ah, Miss Anglin, how can I help you?
I've come to offer my assistance and and prepare breakfast for all our guests.
I have it in hand. Please do not concern yourself with these matters.
No, I will assist. There's a lot of us here right now, and you are alone.
I'm sure I am up to the task.
Well, I will help. Let me help. The burden is not just yours. What have you prepared for breakfast?
Whatever he's prepared. I don't know. What do you want?
Well, I think we should have some mackerel fillets, some eggs, some
yada yada yada.
bacon.
Yeah, all of that. Anyway, so everybody, the bell is rung for breakfast. You will make your way there, I assume.
Yeah. While I'm doing
no.
it though,
Oh, Vlad.
while I'm there,
Vlad,
can I ask creepy old man?
Yes. Are you talking about me or Vlad?
Well, one of you can answer if you want. I want to know how long. Well, he wasn't working here because he's obviously invited himself. What was he doing? So I'm like, previously to us reopening the castle, where were you living and what were you doing?
Living in Uppsala, obviously.
So, you worked here before the castle closed?
My ancestors worked here.
But you didn't work here when the castle was...
No, but I believe it is a family calling.
So you've not set foot in this castle prior to it being reopened recently?
No. Of course not.
Right. But you know your way around the castle so well.
I've spent the last few months getting used to the place.
So do you know much history about the castle?
Oh, not really.
But you know some.
Is there something you wish to know, Miss Angland?
Well, I'd like to know everything.
I'm afraid I can't help you there.
How many staff did the castle used to employ?
Thinks for a moment. I think there was perhaps... depending on how many residents there were at any one time, of course, but... certainly... around 20?
And your ancestors' role in the castle was?
Much as my duties here now, madam.
In charge?
Oh, no, no. I'm merely a servant.
Like myself?
Oh, you're not a servant, madam. You're a guest.
A guest who's willing to help you. So let me assist you. I'll help you carry these trays up. You rang the bell?
Yeah, he's not going to argue if you're going to press the matter. So you enter into the dining room. Vlad's not going then?
No,
Vlad
Vlad's
doesn't
going,
eat bread.
but as the bell rings, he realizes that his opportunities are quickly dwindling away. So he shall turn to Ingrid and say, "Aha! Oh, look! They do! They have one of my works! It is, looks like it's the tell-all documentary that I had written about life in a brothel. It is titled A Sale of Two Titties. My name is Vlad. It is a pleasure for you to meet me." And I shall go up to her. "I understand that the bell has rung. Let me escort you to the dining hall."
Have you still got the book in hand, or were you just sort of gesturing at it?
No, I have it. It's here. Perhaps they have other ones of my work. Perhaps you have heard of me. I wrote many books. I'm very prolific. Perhaps you read my children's story. I wrote a famous child story about a snail who had won a race against a rabbit by using a gravity-powered vehicle. I called that story Escargot-Kart. But do not feel badly for the rabbit, for I had written a follow-up book about him as well, and about how he lost the race. I titled that book A Bad Hair Day. Yes, but come, tell me about yourself as we walk.
How does Ingrid respond to that?
Slightly bemused, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's an appropriate
I am quite
response.
prolific. I wrote many books. I wrote I remember one time I wrote an engaging book about feline health titled What to Do with a Fat Pussy. I am very prolific. I wrote many things. Perhaps you have heard of me. My name is Vlad. Vlad,
Is that a silent V or a
Vlad,
silent
the
V?
B is silent.
The V is silent,
No,
not the B.
Vlad, the B is silent.
Okay. Ingrid's very bemused, hasn't heard of him, but doesn't really want to be rude.
Okay.
Come, my darling, take my arm. I shall escort you. It will be your pleasure.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be a language thing, right? It's got to be.
Yeah, she'll go with him, but and
Oh, by the way, don't mind my little dog. He is a little collie. He's a lap dog. His name is Cholera. Cholera the Chole, because he is a collie. He does not bite.
So Vlad has a dog.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a dog trailing behind you too, as you enter into the breakfast room. We're going to call it that because it's breakfast time. It's not dinner time, so it's not the dining room. And I assume everyone else is seated there, right?
Everyone else is on time.
Yeah. And perhaps, yeah, there is a bemused-looking Ingrid who's walking in with this unusual-looking chap who seems to be talking her ear off at the moment. And you all sit down for breakfast. Does Valdis mention anything? Or is she going to keep it to herself?
She's not going to mention anything straight away
Okay.
because, food.
As they walk in, I start ushering them all, much to Frisk's probably. I'm like, oh, please take a seat. Please take a seat, everybody. We have, and I show them the food. I'm going, would anybody like a drink, a hot drink, a cold drink, an alcoholic drink? Maybe a little bit. Sit. And I'm like, I'm just fussing over
around.
them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Frisk just kind of stands back by the door, his head slightly bowed as everybody enters. And when he's sure that everybody's settled, he kind of steps forward, serves everyone a plate full of food, and he's kind of very subservient.
Is
And
the
then-
boisterous 14-year-old your assistant?
Well, I beg your pardon, sir.
He's a lovely man, Frisk. Have you met him, everybody? Have you have a chat with him at any point? He has a wealth of information about the castle. You just have to find out from what it is.
Would that be all, madam? He
Um,
smiles.
Care to join us, Frisk?
Oh, certainly not, madam.
Oh,
And
Thank you,
he-
Frisk.
he disappears out of the room as quickly as possible.
as the door shuts, I go, he definitely knows something about this castle, and we need to find that information out.
I think a few people might know more about this castle than we do.
Really?
Yes, as I'm saying this, I'm cutting up some form of meat.
Yes.
And like baking up a separate plate for the dog. Yes, on my walk around the grounds, there was some gentleman at the gates. Turned out to be a journalist. I'll pop out his card.
Yep. And you see the name upon it. She's
Stefan.
yes, it's Staffan Hermansen.
Yeah, I'm not going to try and spell that.
No.
Yeah, he wanted a statement. Obviously, he's saying that the town is very interested of why so many people have arrived, and in particular some foreigners. I'm assuming, like, would it just be us, or would the other group be here as well?
I guess the other guys will be there. There's a bunch of them.
So yeah, when I say foreigners, I will be like,
Yeah.
at them.
Yeah.
And then obviously saying it more focused towards that group, like, and he's very interested in about how your friend past.
Yeah. So perhaps they get a bit guarded, the other group, at that point.
Yeah.
And don't really say too much. But one of them, he asks for the card.
Yeah, I'll pass it.
Okay. So you sit eating breakfast. About halfway through, Frisk enters, and he's carrying a silver tray, and it's very elaborate, this tray, and he seems to be. It's almost like a ritual that he's performing as he brings this thing in. You can see sitting on top of this, there is a letter.
Oh.
And he steps forward and he says, "A letter has arrived.
Who for?
It is not addressed to anybody, merely the society."
Oh. Who?
But I guess that's all of us.
Well, not necessarily. It might be a
all
bill.
of us but blood.
It might be a bill. Somebody else should open it.
I'm trying to think, like, who would be sat at the head of the table? Just
You tell me.
Well,
Who would be?
I'll be very happy to grab because it has
I
to
have
do
a
with
feeling
writing.
he would sit himself at
Yeah.
the top of the table, like.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think someone needs to tell Blood that the bills still apply regardless of whether you open the envelope.
Vlad, the bee is silent.
Yeah, so whoever sat at the head of the table, I would gesture to them. Just
Okay, I'm gonna say it's definitely Flood.
As I open up the letter, I will look over and say, "Oh, I see you have a beautiful big dog. Does your dog read? I wrote a wonderful book about a pair of dogs that had 101 puppies. I titled that book Because They're Catholic." As I'm opening up the letter, "Perhaps you have heard of me. I'm Vlad.
my
Vlad
dog does
Aslot
not
Vadam.
read.
I'm a very prolific writer. I write many, many, many things."
I'm sure.
And I shall open the letter and read it in an accent that only Vlad can read it in.
Oh, okay.
What's
So-
that sound like?
Oh, Mac.
Oh my goodness me.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Okay.
preparing me beforehand.
That's all right. I probably shouldn't have shown you that one, to be honest. In fact, let's close that one down. I'll open the proper one
All right. We'll close
if I can find it. That is,
I know it. Go to journal
you can go to journal. Yeah.
and then
It
go on
says
the
that-
map and press back.
What?
What?
That's the
town
name
we're
of the town. Fackelback. So you press the journal tab to make sure you're on journal.
Oh, yeah. Fallbacker.
Oh, Fallbacker. That you said it better than me, obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I say
Fallbacker.
it in common. I just speak common.
I only speak common.
Yeah,
I tell you what.
Fallback.
Let me make it easy for you.
To whom it is a concern. My name is Oscar Udgren, priest, in the fishing village of...
Bealbaca.
Fishing village, yes. You know, it's very interesting. I actually wrote a story about a church that was looking to fill the position of priest. I titled that story The Missionary Position. Anyways, yes, that was about the priest. It is with a heavy heart that I write these lines. I am at wit's end with my current predicament, and so I turn to you. I met with members of your exalted order during my studies in Uppsala a few years ago, and now I place my hope in your particular talent and expertises. My best friend and mentor, Vicar Carl Erik Hedquik, is dead. His body was found a week ago, washed up on the beach in the Palajala Baka Akalaba Kelaba. The penmanship is awful on this letter. The coroner has identified the cause of death as self-inflicted gunshot to the head and written it off as suicide. I refuse to accept this conclusion. Certain that there is something unnatural afoot, and I know who is responsible. What I lack is proof and the means to do something about it. I last saw Carl Eric alive 1 week before he was found dead. He was once again heading out to Wrecker Isle in the archipelago to bring the word of God to the depraved seafarers frequenting the inn on the island. Wrecker Isle is a hub for maritime traffic and the site of the largest herring saltery in the archipelago. That reminds me of a very endearing story that I wrote about a captain and his fellow sailors. They were very close together. The title of that story was "The Captain Loves His Seamen." Anyways, that was one of the books that I had written as well. Perhaps you have read it.
He's lost his place.
At least it wasn't a tale of two seamen, I suppose.
Yes. Some days the sea lane is so clogged with boats and ships that people can walk across them halfway to Falejabaka. Wrecker Isle reeks with herring and sin, and a godless stain on the earth. The proprietors of this den of thieves, Herring Baron van Zacharias Amzanson and his mother Abella, whom the locals call the Godmother, are openly defying the teachings of our Lord and have thrown out the good vicar every time he had visited Wrecker Isle. I am convinced that the Herring Baron and the Godmother, along with Zacharias' feeble-minded but dangerous older brother Paul's, Pete, and Pace, are doing the devil's bidding and are to blame for Carl Eric's untimely death. I shall go to Wrecker Isle to find proof of their guilt and face these henchmen of Satan face to face. I require your assistance in this perilous endeavor. If you cherish your God and wish to help his humble servants in this time of greatest need, meet me in Fajbalgar at your earliest convenience. With the highest regard, Oscar Udgren. Well, it's obvious why he wants me to come help.
It is?
Yes. Obviously, he wants somebody to write this great story. Whenever there is an injustice in this world, it must be written about so that people can learn from it, so that those responsible can pay for their crimes on pen and paper and be forever recorded in history as the dastardly people that they are.
Well, it would seem that way as we are entering a new era into the society that somebody records all our adventures. So you will be well fitted in the group.
I thank you for this.
It's fine. More tea?
Thank you. Very good.
Very
well-
well so. Yes.
So news has travelled quite far of the castle being re-inhabited.
Well, we have a job to do, obviously. Obviously, these ungodly people have done some very bad things. Maybe they are Vaesen. Maybe they're in league with the Vaesen. Maybe. So we have to go, yes?
Or maybe they're just drunkards.
Well, he obviously
But-
knows what we do, so the fact that he's called upon our expertise is because he has suspicion.
He didn't mention any suspicion. He just knows that people are here and we go out and maybe apparently used to harm people or Vaesen. Maybe he just sees us like
He
mercenaries.
wants us to investigate and beat people up. They need beating.
Yes.
Well,
Ingrid brings up an interesting point. If they are indeed drunkards, they should read the book that I wrote about consuming too much alcohol. It was a very informative article. I called it "Daddy Forgot to Wear Pants Again." Very good for people who you suspect drink too much.
Oh, I will put that on my reading list this evening to read before I retire to my bed
Perhaps you will
chamber.
find a copy in one of the many libraries here. I'm sure of it.
I'm sure.
Up there,
Roland,
check one of the fireplaces.
Roland, you're a private investigator. What would you think our first step would be?
Well, we should try and I don't know, get a feel for this village where the
Alabaka. That one.
we went to the
Wrecker
Island.
Wrecker Island.
I just don't remember what was it. I mean, the thing. I suppose we could try to find out what. Yeah. So. Yeah. So the reason he was going over, and then also what happened while he was there. Because yeah, it could just be a case that he got into a fight with the wrong people. Who knows? But we'll have to maybe ask around and see. Who knows anything.
So you're going to accept this invitation then?
Yes.
I mean, let's say yes, because otherwise this ends really quickly.
Roland is correct. We must
Margaritas,
research
anyone?
everything we can about this village and these people. Surely there must be information about them.
Well, that's a good point. So, what do folks want to do about this? So you have a library that you have discovered within the castle. There's places around town too, the university here, or they would also have information. So we don't have to worry about that. I just wonder, what is it that folks might actually be looking for any information about?
We got these herring baron person, Zacharias Munson. So if they're got that kind of title, they must be a person of note. So if there'd be some local information, at least on our
Yeah. Okay. So is that what
I'd also sorry.
No, carry on. You go ahead.
No, I'd also like to probably do some research as to what religious institutions there were there on the island. I don't expect that there's, any small village or town or anything in the area that didn't already have some sort of religious institution there. And then why, this, maybe correlate between the type of religious institution it was and why the vicar would have not been welcomed there.
Yeah. Okay. Is anybody else looking into anything, or but you're basically just all working together for this, right?
To disappear and make sure that provisions are ready for everybody, so we have enough food, provisions, and things like that. And I will make sure that Frisk arranges travel arrangement, gets us there, and then I go bustling off.
Okay. Sure, no problem. Is Ingrid wanting to do anything in particular?
Yeah. So Ingrid's going to be looking into, with the others, looking into sort of like the island, the herring industry, that bit as well, the religion, but also trying to find out more about, what's his name, Oscar, the chap who wrote the letter, and Carl Eric, and see if she can find out more information about them and how they fit in and why they as individuals might not be popular, and whether Oscar is someone we would actually want to trust.
He's a man of God.
That doesn't mean much.
Yeah. Okay. So, you go looking for information first, then about Wrecker Isle, and I think the thing that surprises you is there's very, very little information about any settlement on Wrecker Isle. And from that, perhaps you draw the conclusion that the settlement there is obviously very, very new. It's only recently been settled. In the last few years, potentially. It's in Wrecker Isle is part of one of these chain of islands that are just off the coast of the town of Fjällbacka, which is about 200 years old. It's been settled for about 200 years. So it's a much larger town. That's where Carl Eric was based as a vicar. And that is basically a hub for herring fishing on the west coast. There's been periods where the herring have not arrived off the coast, and the whole area has suffered. The prosperity of the area has dropped considerably when this occurs. But recently, certainly within the last 30, 40 years, it seems that that they've had a bit of a windfall on herring, and this commodity has kept that area thriving now for the last several years, and it doesn't seem to have dissipated. The religion is primarily Christian, and Carl Eric, you probably find out a little bit about him. He's not a follower. That's probably not. But he kind of follows the doctrines of a particularly conservative Christian fellow. And if I can find that info for you.
I was going to say, while they're all off actually doing research, I will go to the station and sort out travel.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, he was a disciple of this evangelist Henrik Schartau. It's very conservative, very strict Christian doctrine, but it's quite widespread in those western parts of Sweden. You can probably make the assumption that Wrecker Isle is not. It doesn't have a church, as far as you're aware. Like I say, the settlement is very, very recent, and perhaps the sailors have a bit of a reputation, don't they? Particularly back in this day and age, and he seems to be trying to kind of bring them back into the fold, as it were. They're an ungodly lot. They're a rough and ready lot, I guess. And you can kind of make that assumption. He's basically just trying to bring them back into the fold.
Yes, seamen can be very unruly.
Yeah, they precisely. But there doesn't seem anything untoward that you've noticed, at least not yet. Okay.
Well, it is interesting that this Wrecker Island wasn't inhabited before this. It seems to be very new. We don't find records of cemeteries or anything on that island.
There's no records like that at all. No. Yeah, whether or not people, because they're kind of a close knit kind of bunch of islands in this kind of archipelago, that it's quite likely that anybody that passes away would just be taken back to Fjällbacka, which is the center of that area, the commercial hub. And so most of the population, a lot of these islands, they're just like these bare granite places that don't really have people living on them, because they're quite small and there's not a lot there. this place they call in Wrecker Isle seems to have attracted some of these people for some reason.
Well, what we can say for certain is that being a clergyman is very difficult and very dangerous in this age, battling demons and devils and all sorts of unnatural things. Anything we can do to make this place a safer place for our clergy, we are duty bound to do our best.
It seems like it was a perfectly safe place for clergy if they just didn't go there.
You know, that makes perfect sense.
Knowing when you're not wanted, kind of important.
Then maybe
Yeah.
we should go there to put up signs saying,
Priest, go home.
yes, go clergy be cautious.
Clergy be gone. That sounds, yeah, why not? Why not? Yeah, we just take some paint, get some cardboard and some wood, make some signs, off you go. Right. So yeah, you're just gonna travel off to this place? Is that
I think we should send word ahead that we will come. I'm assuming that if we receive this invitation, that probably sending back, yes, we will come and this is where to meet us at such and such a time. Would likely get there before we would. If
yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, because you got to make a little bit of preparation. I mean, you've got to, it's gonna, like you say, you're doing a bit of research. You've got arranging travel to this place, so all that takes time. You can send a letter on ahead, and yeah, so you find yourselves at the train station in Uppsala, perhaps just a few days later, and there is a short. I say short. It's like a day's steam ride out to the down towards Soda Shopping, I believe it's called or pronounced, which is a town further south. And you spend the day on the train, traveling through this wonderful countryside. Which is all kind of pine forests and quite hilly areas. And this train kind of winds around all of these places through some of these little villages until you arrive into the town of Soda Shopping, where you catch a boat and travel along the canal for several days, very, very slowly, along the Gotha Canal, all the way to Gothenburg. And as you're kind of traveling through, you can see the sun is burning down. It's blazing down on you the whole time that you're on this train, making the journey quite uncomfortable. It takes several days as well. At nights, it's humid. You can see there's a very thin, waxing moon in the sky. And eventually you arrive at Gothenburg, the kind of a large city on the coast of the west coast there, where you travel by coach all the way up to the town of Fjällbacka.
Wow.
Yeah. And you can see from this map that there's this massive chain of islands. As you kind of stand, you stand on the harbour there at Fjällbacka. These kind of granite islands all off in the distance. The sun is just blue. The sky is just blue. The sun is still kind of high in the sky. And these chain of islands are just off in the distance, these kind of heaps of kind of blue rock out there in the distance.
I see one of these islands is called Graveyard Isle. That is not familiar to me. But it is odd because I did write a guide about old burial sites. Perhaps you have read it. I called it Necropolis Now.
Nice. Well done.
I am a very prolific writer. I maybe will add this graveyard isle to the book.
Okay. And so, as you're kind of standing there, you've arranged to meet this Oscar Udgren at the harbour. And so as you finally climb off the coach and you see all this bustling harbour laid out before you, with these many boats out in the just off the harbour there, all anchored out there. It's quite clear that fishing is a very big business around here. And you kind of wander around the docks. You're eventually approached by it's a young man wearing priestly garb. It's blazing hot, uncomfortably hot, and uncomfortably close. And this guy, he's kind of standing there wearing like a black cassock, seemingly unbothered by this. Kind of very short cropped hair, very austere look on his face. And he kind of sees you and makes a beeline for you straight away, stepping amongst all of the lobster pots and the ropes that are kind of coiled around on the dock. And he holds out his hand and says, you must be the society.
Yes, I take out my hand. My name is Vlad. It is very nice to meet under circumstances such as this. Perhaps you have heard of me. I'm a writer. I wrote a very touching story about a curious boy. Perhaps you know it. I called that story Peeping Tommy.
I feel bad in saying that I'm unaware of such a novel, sir. I am Oscar Udgren, and he shakes your hand vigorously.
You are the writer of that letter. You must work on your penmanship.
There is something wrong with my penmanship, sir?
It is quite difficult to read.
I'm terribly sorry, but I thank you for coming so quickly.
I step forward and introduce myself. Elsa, nice to meet you. Have you heard any news? Has anything changed since you wrote your letter?
No, I was awaiting your arrival before heading across to the island. I have secured a boat to take us across.
When do you wish to leave?
I thought we could perhaps leave immediately if you are in agreement.
Yeah. Are you going dressed like that?
And he kind of looks down at himself. Whatever do you mean?
Well, just from your letter, you saying they are a godless island and they don't respond well to vicars and priests and people preaching the word of God. And I'm just thinking that if we want to make maybe a few discreet inquiries, that you might stand out slightly dressed like that.
No, certainly not. No, I have nothing to fear.
No.
Of course, your God will protect you, as he has done Karl Erik.
I'm just kind of thinking that if anything untoward had happened to your dear friend, because he was dressed in a similar fashion, that maybe you might stand out like a sore thumb.
I do not believe it is the clothing that they object to, madam.
That's very interesting. I once wrote a book about the textile industry. I titled this book, How to Fleece Your Customers.
You've certainly written a lot of books. Are
Yes,
you
yes,
are you
many
jotting all
bla-
these details down for
I
your
am very
next book?
prolific.
Very perfect.
However, perhaps we were not able to get too much information from where we are. Being closer to the Isle, perhaps this city will have a library we can research about this family, about these den of thieves of which you call them. Information I find is quite useful for the narrative purposes.
I don't know if you'll find too much information in the library about Wrecker Isle. But I mean, if there's anything I can help with, feel free to ask.
Have you already tried to do some yourself?
I'm sorry, madam?
Have you tried to do some investigations yourself?
Well,
He's a man of God, not an investigator.
What do you know about Wrecker Isle? How long has it been around? How did it come about to be populated?
well, it was some 30 years ago when Godmother Abella bought the Wrecker Isle and opened the inn. Please, let us load onto the boat and we can talk on the way.
Do you have provisions for such a journey? We just journeyed ourselves. We might
It is-
want to replenish.
It is not far, only a few hours' travel. If you are able to cope with that after such a long journey.
I look down. Cholera, you want to go on a boat ride? Come, Cholera.
Yes.
Okay. So you have your things loaded onto the ship. And it sets off, kind of meandering its way through these myriad of boats and ships that are kind of dotted over this area. Yes. God. Yes.
Sorry, this island we're going to, it's a little bit rough, maybe a little bit piratey, you say?
Piratey?
I'm just thinking, have we got any weapon?
You think of
Weapons?
We have a priest.
The
Is
last
that
priest,
not a weapon of God?
We can't exactly throw him at people.
and the other one got killed?
Not like the Ark of the Covenant or whatever.
I have a feeling we should have thought of this before.
Well, Eric
Fine.
was armed the last time he went to the island.
You arm your priest when they
No,
visit?
he had some difficult encounters. He took a
Okay,
revolver on his last trip. He'd
okay.
had his life threatened
Wow.
on previous visits.
Yet he still continued to go when he felt he needed a weapon, a gun of all things. As a man of God.
No
Indeed.
doubt he felt compelled to fight against the devilry.
I look over at Val and go, Val, you've got your gun, yes?
Always.
I hope that thing is not loaded. They are terribly dangerous.
I know how to handle mine.
I turned back to, is it Oscar? Oscar? Is it Oscar? Yeah.
Yep.
What do you understand about our society?
I stayed in Uppsala for a while.
So
I know what it is that you do.
So why did you feel that we would be particularly good for finding your friend? Because we're not mercenary. We're
But
not.
you do not need to find Carl Eric. We know exactly where he is. But something.
Yeah.
Carl Eric was a formidable person.
Was
if
he a member?
No, he was not a member of the society. I somehow suspect that he would disapprove of me even contacting you, but I had no choice. He was a formidable person. If something would have caused him to take his own life, it must have been something, and surely not, certainly not the Herring Baron or Godmother Abella could be that frightening that he would kill himself with his own gun.
Do you believe that he did kill himself?
That is what the police have told me. That's what the coroner believed.
It's whether you believe it.
It was fired at point blank range. I find it difficult to believe that he would have done such a thing, but if he did, he must have been confronted with something truly terrifying.
So you think that there is something Vaesen related then? It's just that if we get there and we find that this godmother and her brood of pirate people just decided to shoot him, we're not bodyguards. We're not equipped to arrest anybody. We're not equipped to tackle anybody. We like to investigate and find Vaesen and...
Shh, don't say that word again. You call them.
The ones we're not supposed to speak about, but that's...
I believe something unnatural is happening on that island.
Right. Okay. So...
With those whose name might not be spoken.
It's called on the S in the VS Island.
So who lives on this island? Won't it be strange that a boat is coming across with just some unknowns on it?
There is an inn. There is the Herring Saltery that belongs to the Herring Baron and Godmother Abella. There is...
It's a tourist attraction then?
No, but it is the largest herring saltery in the area. They get a lot of business. Huge amount of business. There is an inn there. It attracts the wrong kind of people. Carl Eric was trying to bring them back into the fold. It was a blight. It's a blight on the area.
So you want to close them down? Or...
I want to find and stop any devilry that might be happening on that island.
Well, it
that's
might
a maybe.
pay to investigate this isle. I could be there under the guise of adding this isle to my repertoire of storybooks about reading maps, which I call The Legend. We could add it to that book. That could be a good premise for us to be there.
Mm. Yes.
I'm still not convinced that you turning up in your priest garbs is the best. I truly, hand on heart, feel that maybe you could change into maybe something not quite so, you know.
It's very difficult to preach the word of God and remain inconspicuous.
I don't think we should be preaching the word of God. This is not why we're here.
That was Carl Eric's mission.
And we're not here to fulfill Carl Eric's mission. Yes?
But he is.
But that's why we're not here for that, though. Oh, we're here to find out if there's some Vaesen there.
You don't have to dress as a priest.
That's what we're doing.
What?
We don't...
But we're not here to protect him. We're not
Okay.
here to preach the word of God. We're here to protect ourselves and other humans from Vaesen, and I don't want to be fighting pirates the second we step off the boat.
We don't
It's
have
probably
to.
easier fighting pirate.
Well, it seems that they weren't outwardly aggressive to Carl. If indeed they made it look like suicide, I don't believe that coming off the boat we will be accosted in any way. However, as going to the priest, do you own another set of clothes that you could wear?
I do not. Certainly not that I have brought with me.
Would you at least be prepared to not preach while we are trying to get to the bottom of what happened? Because it might just hinder our ability to get information.
I mean, we could just ditch him at the coast.
I mean, yeah, there's always a possibility.
We've never met him before.
Yes.
We got on a boat, strange man in a dress jumped in.
Yeah, I mean, that'll work. That'll work. The boat trip lasts about an hour. And as you kind of approaching Wrecker Isle, you can see this lump of granite that's kind of sat out there in the ocean. And there are boats lined up, almost stem to stern, all the way across it. You could practically walk between the islands with these boats that are kind of anchored out on out from all of these islands here. The gulls are screaming out in the sky, swooping down and diving into the sea and grabbing fish, and they're fighting amongst themselves over it. There are sailors that are mending nets.
Stop turning away.
Yeah, all right. And going about their business on their boats. They kind of pay you no notice at all as you sail past them. So it's only an hour. It's quite a short trip from Fjallbacka to this island. What's more difficult is finding a berth. There's so many boats anchored up onto the harbour that it takes the captain of the ship another hour maneuvering between all of these different boats until he can find a berth on the harbour, and it kind of runs up alongside this thing and bounces precariously as it kind of hits the jetty, and before the captain and some of his crew jump off and secure the boat. The harbour itself is bustling with activity. There are barrels and crates all over it being moved around by burly guys that are looking very unkempt, a little bit dubious characters. I think you see a number of those massive beards, greasy hair, and the smell is off the scale.
I'm actually going to look around to Oscar and say, I see exactly what you mean. There is something definitely very fishy on this island.
Oh, ow.
It had to be said. Very fishy indeed.
Yeah, so there's the sailors all over close, carrying barrels, carrying crates, moving them around. There's this massive structure right on the harbour there. This bright yellow building, which people are carrying things in and out of this building, which you assume to be the saltery. And this stench of oil and fish is almost overwhelming as you climb from the ship down onto the jetty.
I turn to the others and go, I came prepared, and I pull out some little bits of smelling salts so they can dab it under their noses. Do I notice as we arrive whether we get any people glancing at us.
Not surprisingly, nobody really pays you that much attention.
Okay.
Yeah, you just kind of see this building dominating the area. People just carrying barrels and crates in and out of this thing, carrying them onto boats, carrying them off boats. There's this strong smell of oil which you kind of associate with trains. Seems to be kind of drifting across on the air, as well as this smell of fish, and it's quite overwhelming, quite unpleasant.
Would that be something we'd expect to smell?
Yes, you would. Yeah. I mean, perhaps you weren't expecting it to be quite as strong as it is. It's very unpleasant. Set back somewhat from the harbour, you can make out quite a large wooden mansion, quite opulent looking. And beyond that, there's a smaller building. You can't quite see it from where you are. But there's a trail of people kind of coming to and from there as well, heading down to the harbour.
Does it look like... Okay, so it's a really busy working port. And you have this mansion and a smaller building. So do these people in the port live on the island, or do they just literally come into the island?
Generally be living on their boats. Or they would...
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So there's not like a residential area of such or anything?
No. When you say a residential area, there's the opulent looking building, which looks like a residence.
Yeah, but there's not like smaller houses and like you would walk down a street of houses. This big house, the warehouse, and so all these people that are working would just go to their boat.
Generally.
Right.
I mean, as you kind of... The captain ties up the ship to the jetty, Oscar kind of says, the inn is back there. And he kind of points to this other smaller building off in the distance. Perhaps you could acquire accommodation there.
Yes. Where did you find your friend in the end? You said he was washed up on the beach. That was the other side, not here.
It was one of the islands in the archipelago.
I see.
Whale Island, I believe. Yes, it was Whale Isle.
And his body was unmolested by the aquatic creatures.
No, they'd certainly taken their turn at his body. He steps down onto the jetty. He gets a few kind of quizzical glances, perhaps, from some of the other sailors as he kind of starts making his way up. He stops part way and looks back to see if you're following.
Yes, I recommend that we go surround him in a group so he will be less noticeable. We will just surround him and be on the outside. I'll move up to follow. And
Okay.
head towards the inn.
Sure. What's everybody else up to?
Oh, we'll follow to the inn. Yes.
Okay.
I'll
Definitely.
probably hand back and come up the end of the line.
Okay. All right. Can we take a quick break there then? Yes, you're at the harbour. You're at the harbour. There is the big, huge yellow warehouse that belongs to the Amundsen family. The rather opulent-looking mansion, and what you've been told is the inn. that is set a little further back. There's a steady stream of people coming to and from the inn. And there's a steady stream of people coming in and out of the warehouse carrying these crates and boxes and stuff. So tell me, peeps.
Something fishy's going on here.
Oh,
God, we've got two of them at it now.
oh, dear God.
I just want to make Jake happy. That's my only quest this evening.
Did that look? He's from
Takes
Canada.
very little.
He's always happy. Yeah.
It takes very little to make me happy.
There you go. He's a simple man with simple tastes.
To the inn.
To the inn. Okay. Then that is where we shall go. You kind of push your way through this throng of people, making your way up towards the inn.
Is Vicar Dibley still with us?
Yeah, he's
No,
come with
no, yes, no.
you. Oh, yeah, no. There is a 2.5-story building. It's made completely out of wood. It looks very, very solid. And you see these sailors kind of a little half cut stumbling out of this thing. And a few people quite excitedly making their way up the path there towards the front door. And you kind of get yourself into this throng of people and you kind of push in. You push on in. Yeah. It's very busy in there. Very, very busy indeed. Lots of people sat at tables drinking, guzzling aquavit, beer, all of the usual. You kind of were hoping for a bit of a reprieve from the smell from outside. But unfortunately, as you kind of step through into this place, you kind of add stale sweat to that smell as well.
Musky.
It's musky, yeah. It's great.
By God, this building is in grave need of more windows, I say.
Yeah, I just out of interest, Vlad.
It's Vlad, the bee is silent.
What is it? What are you wearing? What are you dressed like, man?
Very much like my photo, I suppose. If people, I don't know if my photo's available.
You know what? I will throw that up for people to have a look. Well, I won't throw it up. I'll let people have a look,
and then they'll throw up.
And then they'll throw up. Here we go. So yeah. So are you first through the door then?
Absolutely, yes. I'm heading straight towards that barkeep, the person who can give me proper accommodations.
That's what he thinks. Yes. So the clientele, they're not dressed like Vlad in here. Let's put it that way. You've seen them all kind of lining the docks. These guys, they're wearing very coarse clothing. Their hair is unkempt. Their beards they're probably their own ecosystems, and the smell is like it's stale beer, stale sweat. There's that slightly fishy aroma that's kind of creeping in from outside, along with the smell of kind of train oil, which seems to pervade the entire island. And these guys, they don't really pay too much attention to you. You get a few quizzical glances, particularly as you kind of the way you're dressed there, Vlad. In fact, the whole crowd, all of you, probably looking a little bit out of place here. And you make your way straight up to the bar.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Go to the barkeep. I mean, I'm conscious that my, I guess my audience is around me, and it's a way that I can promote myself in my writings.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go and introduce myself. Yes, hello, good barkeep. My name is Vlad. Vlad Atsamot Badam. I am a writer. Perhaps you have heard of me. I see there are a lot of salty individuals here, so perhaps you are familiar with some of my work. I wrote a very salty story about a book of intimacy and the elderly. Perhaps you have read it. I titled it Sex in Your 30s.
I mean, he kind of looks across at another person that's kind of sat there at the bar, and he goes, "What do you say?"
Yes,
And the other's
yes.
like,
I wrote
"No idea."
a musical about a boy coming of age, and I titled it "How to Play with Your Organ." Perhaps you have read it.
I don't think they're the reading crowd.
Yeah,
I
and
think
that's
quite
a very
unfortunate.
yeah. And they kind of they look at you as if you're from Mars or something, as you're kind of regaling them with this information.
Mhm.
And the barkeep looks across at you. He's kind of got this filthy cloth that he's kind of clearing a glass out with. You drinking?
Yes. What do you recommend? Something non-alcoholic, please. I'm a mean drunk.
and you kind of get this biggest smile off this guy when he says that. Yeah, he wants something non-alcoholic. And he sets he disappears out back, and he sets a flagon of something on the bar in front of you.
Excellent. Very good. And I'm going to go, Cholera, come here. And I'm going to let Cholera sniff it and drink from it a bit.
Okay.
And once Cholera has done that, I will take it and sniff it and drink it a bit myself.
Sure. And yeah, it's difficult to kind of get a scent over the aroma in the room. And a quick taste reveals that it is in fact water.
Mm. Lovely. It has the right tepidity, exactly the way I like it.
Like
You
into
are a man who
saliva.
knows your job and your clientele very well.
Right. He looks at the rest of you.
I just have a beer, please.
Sure. And he starts getting drinks for the five of you. Oscar, he's kind of hanging back. You can see him kind of surveying the bar at this moment in time. He just kind of look as if he's looking for someone. And as you kind of follow his gaze, he's kind of looking around. You kind of notice there's this kind of grim-faced looking old woman wearing a filthy apron, who's kind of sat in the corner. The most obvious thing about her is she's kind of brandishing a shotgun. Well, she's not brandishing it. She's kind of got it next to her. She's sat on a chair in the corner, and she seems to be surveying the entire place. As if, this is her domain, and she's
Your
gonna
security for the evening.
she's gonna kill anyone. I guess in a way.
Yeah. Anyone who orders water.
Perhaps you have accommodations for the evening, something that will befit our station.
Your station,
Yes,
certainly.
something.
And he kind of he just kind of throws out a price. Now, anybody that doesn't have a resources of 4 is not going to be able to afford to stay here this evening.
Thanks.
Wow.
That's unfortunate for anyone else.
Yeah.
So who would
Can the poor
actually-
people share
That's
with
me
us
out
the
then.
resources of 4?
Wow.
Yeah.
My resources is 2.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
Well,
that's
that's
a
a
assuming
together.
price. Take it or leave it.
I'm assuming that my retinue will be welcome to stay with me.
Did he say?
I'm sorry.
What did he say? That's
Yes. The
If we get a room,
course,
can the rest of
I
this
am
riffraff
having
stay with us?
accommodations that will suit my friends as well.
you paying for them too?
The accommodations is going to be it's at least a 3-bedroom suite that you have for me at such prices, no? I have stayed in many inns. As you know, I am a very prolific writer. My travels take me to many different places. I am familiar with the pricing of such establishments.
Listen, friend.
Hmm?
You're buying nothing but water. The price is what it is.
Yes, of course. My friends, you are welcome to stay with me.
You pay for the room.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll get
so
my
pay
own
for
room
it.
because I can afford it. You can have the
No,
rest of
there's
the video
two
room.
of them. Yeah.
Wow.
I suppose you'll be wanting to eat as well, right?
It wouldn't hurt. What you got? Been a long day.
Would you have any fish-based
And I kind of
meals,
like-
perchance?
I'll kind of do that thing we do, like a head tilt towards blood.
Yeah. There's a.
Blood,
Yeah.
to be
The
silent.
pH is silent.
When you mention the fish, obviously, yeah, he smirks a little bit. And he goes off to put your order through. And as you're kind of standing there, you're kind of surveying the bar. You can see this woman, who's kind of looking across at you a little bit curiously. At this point, the rest of the inn, it's basically these hairy sailor types. There are a couple of guys, really big. They kind of are moving amongst the crowd. They're kind of talking periodically to some of the clientele. They've got really round faces, kind of thinning hair, crooked teeth. When they smile, it's more of a grimace. But the clientele seem to kind of be bearing them quite a bit of respect too. And maybe you see some kind of family resemblance with the woman that sat in the corner with the shotgun.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, I remember I wrote a book about people who owed too much money to his dentist for his dental work. The title of the book was Indentured. Perhaps you read it.
You seem to have written a lot of books.
I'm very prolific.
A lot of books that no one's read.
Yeah. Well, I there are more titles I have. Perhaps if I list them out, you would know one or not. Especially for you, I did write a book. What was it called? It was called it was a book about hobbies, and it was titled "Knitting, Crocheting, Rug Weaving, and Other Manly Activities." Perhaps you read it. Perhaps not.
You find yourselves a free table, and you kind of sat down. And a few moments later, some plates are kind of brought through, and they have these kind of sandwiches on them. Really, really thick. The bread's cut really, really, really thick, and they kind of slammed down in front of you. No decorum here.
Is it all fish?
Well, you don't really know what it is.
Kind of look at it tentatively and turn to the others and go, I don't actually like fish.
I mean,
I'm sure you won't be able to taste it.
Luckily, I did bring some with us. So if you don't like that, and I just pull out a sandwich of my own and stand there, sit there eating it.
I'm just going to eat what's on the table.
Okay.
I don't think you can prepare fish wrongly. There is no dangerous way to prepare fish.
I just don't like fish.
I see.
It's not a taste I ever acquired.
Hmm.
So I turn to the others and go, have you noticed we're being stared at by the lady in the corner?
Well,
Yes.
I'm used to it. Perhaps she knows me. She probably read one of my books, maybe more.
Maybe she just saw you.
Yeah, she's a sour-faced looking old woman, to be fair. and she's not like she's zoned in on you guys. She was watching you because you look different to the rest of the clientele here. But she's kind of scanning the entire room. She seems to be looking if there's any trouble. She's ready to kind of jump on it.
Yeah, she's like one of those old ladies every street has. It just
Yeah,
keeps an eye on everybody and everything.
yeah.
And she's the one with the shotgun.
She is. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, she's
Um,
mean.
Yeah. She doesn't look like somebody you want to mess with too much. And it's the same with these two big fellas as well. There's a lot of deference for these three people in this room. There's the guy that's behind the bar as well. He's just kind of treated as an employee by the rest of the crowd here. They don't seem to be treating him in the same way. There's a young waitress as well that kind of brought you sandwiches, and she's kind of milling between the tables, and the sailors are probably being a little bit familiar with her on occasion, and she's having to slap hands away every now and again. And could you all make vigilance tests for me?
Oh, we've not rolled yet.
We're going to make a roll, people.
Okie dokie. So we just press the word vigilance, yeah?
Yeah.
It says logic 3. Let's roll it, yeah?
Roll it, yeah.
That's a lot of dice.
Wow.
Red's keeping her cards close to her chest.
Oh, hang on.
Ooh.
Wow, I rolled
Sorry,
7
just
dice
tell
and
me,
got 1
tell me,
success.
tell me what you got.
Hang on. Let me change the thing.
Don't worry about that. Just tell me what you got. It's fine. Don't worry.
It was. Where are we? 1 success.
Cool. So it's everybody except Vlad. Well, Vlad's blood. I imagine is taking in the sights. I think he's probably distracted. Maybe he's getting ideas for a book or something. Maybe.
I am talking to Cholera as he eats part of my meal.
There you go. And the rest of you kind of notice that this young waitress is kind of moving between the tables. And as I say, she's kind of slapping away these hands as these guys are getting a bit familiar. You notice Oscar is kind of looking. He's looking very grim-faced. He's kind of following. His eyes seem to be following this young lady. And when these guys kind of reach out for her, you see that his blood is boiling. You're like seething as this kind of occurs.
Cholera, you like the fish? The fish is good. Good boy, eat the fish.
Yeah, and the dog is chowing down on the fish.
Oscar, are you
as it
okay?
And it takes you a couple of seconds to kind of get his attention, and he kind of snaps around and looks at you. I'm so sorry, madam.
You look like you're chewing a wasp.
Nothing. It's just being amongst these sinful people.
No. Not like you.
Perhaps you should read one of my books. It will take your mind off things. Stop paying attention to the things that are disturbing you.
Do you know that young waitress?
Yes, I've known her since I was young. We grew up together.
Maybe you could call her over. We could ask her some questions.
Yes. You see him kind of get to his feet, and he makes his way across to where she's standing, and starts talking to her. And she seems a little reluctant at first, but then she kind of follows him back to where you are. And he stands while she's kind of standing there. He doesn't sit down.
Young lady, your name is?
Her name is Justina. We've known each other for a long time, haven't we? And she kind of looks at him nervously and nods.
So you know us, Oscar, obviously. So do you know why we might be here?
No, ma'am.
We are inquiring about the last visit that crap, I forgot his name.
I'll
Carl.
Carl Eric.
Carl Eric.
Henquist.
Do you
Was
know
it
Carl
Henquist?
Eric?
Yeah, Carl Eric Hedquist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know him?
The priest.
Hmm.
So you do?
I know of him.
Oh, right. So is it okay if you talk here? Would we better go outside? Will it cause you any trouble with your boss? And I sort of glance over at the woman.
And you can see that her eyes are kind of drawn across to you all, and perhaps to Justina, who's supposed to be working. Justina has a kind of back to her, so she doesn't really see that.
Perhaps we talk with her at the end of her shift. When is it that you are finished with your work? I am a writer. My name is Vlad. I'm sure you will have some interesting stories to tell me. You could be famous. You could be in one of my books.
Famous?
Yes. Yes. Perhaps you've read some of my books.
Well, I interject. Yes. I'm sure he'll sign a copy of the book that you own of his.
Gladly.
I don't own any books, miss.
Well, we must remedy that situation. Meet us after your work, and we shall present you with a book.
No. Are you able to talk now, or will it cause you any grief?
She kind of looks back nervously towards the old woman in the corner. If we can be quick, madam.
I look over to the others and see if they and say, I'm not quite sure what to ask her.
Can I ply my journalist talent to try to gain information from her?
Your journalist talent. Can you remind me what that is?
It says I can use inspiration instead of manipulation when charming or deceiving someone to gain information. So if the mechanics of the game allow me now to charm
Yep.
her, like
You're
within this
charming her.
environment, if it's a winnable challenge at this point, then we don't have to wait till later.
Yep.
Wow, cool.
I mean, sure, if you wanna make that roll for me, my friend.
Okay, all right, and a inspiration it is.
Woo!
Oh, at least I
7 Ds.
So I guess you're kind of schmoozing her a little bit, kind of trying to impress her with the fact that you're a published writer. Is that that seems to be Vlad's way, right?
Vlad, the B is silent.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems to work. She seems to kind of she's quite. You're a published writer. You have written books.
Yes.
Books
Although
in
not
libraries.
all of them were very famous. One of them, many people thought it was rubbish. I wrote a story about the unbelievable size of a flower's genitalia, and I called that book Poppy's Cock. Again, a lot of people thought it was rubbish. But yes, I am a very prolific writer. Not my proudest work.
But you have books in libraries?
Yes. In fact, there was one in the library that we just came from.
And she's very, very taken by this. So, what is it you're trying to get from her then? What questions do you know?
You see, there's a very interesting story about this Carl Eric. I'm doing a story on people that have two first names instead of a first name and a last name. Very suspicious people. Something is not right there from the very get-go. And I'm looking for some juicy information to expose this person because it seems like something is not right there. And, you know, we
Something's
all
not
know,
right with the priest.
well, obviously, he has shot himself. This is very intriguing.
He shot himself?
Allegedly. Or did he? And that is where the story begins. That is the magic of the written word on the page.
Shot himself?
You can be a part of that.
That would explain why I haven't seen him for so long.
When was the last time you saw him?
Probably a month ago?
This was in confession, of course, so he did not know.
No. Confession? No, I wasn't in confession. He was having an argument. Yes, I remember. He had an argument. He had an argument with Abella and the Herring Baron. Pete and Pace threw him out, but he swore he would return. But I haven't seen him since.
Do you know what the nature of this argument was? I mean, there was a lot of screaming. Surely you understand the content. Details are very important to a story, you know.
No, he'd been before. I mean, he was accusing them of being. She looks round carefully. Of being devil worshippers.
That is troubling. And what signs of devil worship have you seen around here?
I haven't seen anything like that. I'm, and you see Oscar's kind of leaning forward. He says, "Justina, you can tell them. You can tell them everything." And she looks at him.
I promise I will.
I have nothing to tell. Tell them how you were brought here against your will. I wasn't brought here against my will. What are you talking about? I came here because they were paying me. And Oscar is kind of, you see him getting agitated. No. No.
What's going on here?
You must come away. You must come back with me. You must come back with me to the mainland. You can't stay here. I will do no such thing.
So how long have you been here?
I've worked here for the past year. Oscar knows this. I'm not here against my will.
So tell me something. Like the art of circumcision, are the tips here any good?
I do well enough, sir.
Excellent. Very happy for you. You see, this is the main reason she is here. Gainful employment, honest work.
Honest work? Oscar raises his voice slightly. And do you want to make observation test, anybody?
On Oscar, yes. What's going on in his head?
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Now.
Oh.
So right.
Nice man.
So what we got here? We got Valdis with 2 successes. Roland hasn't got any, and Elsa's none, and Ingrid has 1. Ingrid, what are you paying attention to here? Are you paying attention to Oscar, or are you paying attention to something else? Or are you looking around the room, or...
I'm paying attention to Oscar.
Okay. And Vlad, did you get a 6? You got a success, right? Yep. So you both kind of can see that he's quite agitated here, and he seems to kind of be under the impression that the young lady, this Justina, had been brought here against her will. He's almost convinced himself of this. You can see that there's something. He seems to have a thing for this young lady. The 2 of you spot that. Valdis, you notice this too, but you also notice that the old lady is no longer sitting in the corner of the room.
Yeah, I was going to say that's where my eyes would have gone straight as soon as he
Yeah.
raised his voice.
Yeah. And it doesn't take you too long to kind of realize that she kind of meets up with the 2 big guys, and you can see her speaking to them. And then they turn and look at you. Look at your group.
Uh-oh.
And then she kind of leaves them, walks directly over towards your table until she's kind of standing over you all. And she's quite short. Her grey hair is kind of tied it back in this kind of tight bun. And she has this... She just looks formidable despite her short stature. And she kind of looks at you lot, looks at Justina, and then says, "You got work, girl." And Justina kind of dips her head and walks away from the table. And Oscar's eyes just follow her as she goes.
Yes, she is an invaluable employee. She has been definitely entreating us to find out more about the offerings of this wonderful establishment.
Menu's there. And she turns her back and walks away from all of you.
I never wrote the menu before. Maybe I should offer.
She was very rude. I was going to introduce myself.
I don't think she cares for introductions. We are going to have somebody keeping an eye on us. I want to point out the 2 big blokes that she went and spoke to.
Sure. Yeah, and you kind of see them. They're looking. They've kind of separated, kind of different parts of the room, and they appear to be talking to some of the regulars or whatever, the sailors that are in there. But you're catching the glances now as they kind of looking back at you periodically, and they seem to have these rather unpleasant smiles as they do that whenever they look across.
Oscar, you're going to have to contain yourself.
He says nothing. He kind of looks down at the table, and then you kind of just catch him glancing back up at Justina.
Well, we certainly made them aware that we're here. Oscar. Well done.
I mean, it wasn't for his priest clothes that you thought.
I think it was a combination of that and his strange behaviour. What is your... we'd have picked up his obsession with this girl, wouldn't we?
Maybe you didn't.
I didn't.
Yeah. Elsa did, didn't she? I think earlier. Yeah. So, yeah, you can. Yeah, there's he definitely. I mean, certainly Ingrid, and Valdis have definitely noticed that there's something obviously going on. And I think, was it Vlad? Vlad, you noticed? Yeah. I've noticed that he seems to have some kind of fixation on him. Most definitely. The big fella's kind of moving around the room. And you can kind of make out, Valdis, that they're also armed.
Okay.
One of them is carrying. I mean, it's not like they're hiding them. It's a bit like the shotgun that the old lady has. One of them is carrying a pistol. The strange thing about the pistol is that it seems to be quite fancy for the kind of person that you would. When you look at they're looking around the room, this pistol, it looks quite expensive. It's a revolver, and it kind of looks a bit out of place on him. It looks quite a fancy item, really.
Oh, okay.
This reminds me of a book that I wrote about gun safety. Perhaps you have read it. It was called Don't Get Cocky.
So, any of you folks want to do anything else? What's the plan? The sandwiches, by the way, are on this kind of thick, almost stale bread. They're supposed to be the grease that's smeared across them, which you first took for butter, is kind of got this horrible, well, not horrible. It's kind of there's a faint taste, train oil almost, but you're not sure if that's because that's what is permeating the entire island at the moment. But it's not quite butter. It doesn't quite pass for butter.
I can't
But
believe it's not butter.
exactly.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah. You know what?
Good.
You don't get any XP for that.
Mhm.
I'm giving myself experience points. It's fine.
Right. So it seems that we've gained attention. We're being watched by that lady.
And the two big guys with guns.
So I glance around and I sort of put my head down and go, Oscar, well done. Right.
Perhaps we should retire to the rooms and discuss this further. And I'll look over to the barkeep. Certainly, before we go up to our rooms, you would like me to sign the guest book. No, you like to have the famous people that have come to sign the guest book, correct?
Are you saying that too?
The barkeep.
The barkeep.
It's an inn, not a hotel.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Okay. No.
He shrugs. There's no guest book.
I turn to the others and go, do you think the chances of having some clean sheets are in this place?
Slim to none.
I think the best thing
think about
the best idea on that topic is just don't think about it.
Yeah. That's there you go.
Before we go up, so I'm trying to work out whether Ingrid is likely to know enough about guns to know that it's a revolver.
Oh yeah, you'd know that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was quietly say to Oscar, you said Carl Eric had a revolver.
Yes.
Did you know what it looked like? If
Yes.
you saw it,
Oh,
would you
of course.
recognize it?
Yes. But the gun was never found, of course.
Did it have any distinctive mark?
The pearl handles were quite distinctive. Why do you ask?
It wasn't found. We know he came here. There is every possibility we might find it. And if we're trying to find out what happened to him, finding the gun might help.
I see. You've asked that question, Ingrid, and there's definitely that pearl grip on the revolver that is being carried by the big fella.
Excellent.
And so as everybody kind of gets up to kind of go to Vlad's room,
So Vlad, the bee is silent.
one of the big guys approaches. It's the other guy, the one with the knife. So
Knife.
Vlad's gone to the bar. The
I
rest of
step
you were
up
kind of
between them and say, "Hello, can I help you?"
and this fella, he looks down at Elsa. He looks down at you and says, "The Herring Baron has invited you to supper, you and your friends."
Oh, where would that be at?
At the house, of course.
And why would he be inviting us? We've only just got here. We don't know who he is. He doesn't know who we are.
I mean, we didn't announce our presence
I
on the
think he wants
island.
to find out. Make our acquaintance.
You are not the usual clientele. He's an educated man, is the Herring Baron, and he would like to have discourse with like-minded individuals. He stumbles over these words as he says them. He's clearly not that smart.
Clearly not a prolific writer.
That would be wonderful. What time would we be requested to for him to receive us?
Shall we say 7 p.m.?
And which building would we find him in?
In the other building.
Yeah, he looks at you as if you're the idiot.
Rude.
The
Yeah,
residence on the map.
yeah.
Big mansion.
Right
That
next door.
is there a dress code?
Smart casual.
Oh yeah, there's a dress code, all right. And he laughs
Yeah.
and turns
Anything is
around
better than
and walks
nothing.
away.
Oh,
Still
What time is
laughing.
it?
It's probably about 5 p.m. now, so the sun is getting low in the sky. It's kind of casting a reddish light through the windows on the front of the inn, through the the murky windows.
I turn to the others. Well, looks like we've been invited to the Herring Baron's residence for supper. They know we're here.
Yep. They want to know what we're about.
Let's go up to Vlad's room.
Vlad, the bee is silent.
Vlad. We need to discuss our story. What we're going to say, why we're going to say we're here, what we're going to say we're going to do. I think we need to go upstairs where there's no ears or eyes or smell.
I mean, good luck with that last one.
The smell's kind of everywhere.
yep. Don't worry, Elsa. You get used to it.
It grows
I-
on you in more ways than one.
And I think we'll probably leave it there this evening, if that's all right with everybody.
All right.